Welcome back, Strong Lungs fans. I decided I should put the Chocolate Mermaid episode and the Ghost Fairy episode together. You know? Oh yeah, you just saw the Ghost Fairy there. Well, I'll get to her after I do the Chocolate Mermaid episodes. So yeah, because like the reason why I'm doing this is because the episode is actually going to open with the Chocolate Mermaid battle. So yeah, this episode opens with a magenta pyramid-shaped Stronglung. Let's say he's just some random Stronglung. He's not any of the main characters. He just sees like a brown, like he sees like some sort of brown stuff in the ocean. He's like, what is that? And then that's when you see the chocolate mermaids come out of the water. And they roar. He says, and he's like, and then he runs for it. He says, oh my gosh, that's what he says, and then he runs away, and then everyone else who notices them also runs away, and then that's when the battle starts, and that's when Fango shows up in his mecha suit already. He says, don't worry, people, I'm here. And people cheers for Fango. I'll take care of those chocolate mermaids. And then we see that the mermaids, like, they already start fighting. Like, the one in the red shoots its chocolate at Fango. And Fango is like, whoa! And then, first thing, and then the other one grabs, like, a car. Let's say it grabs a tanker truck and throws it at Fango. Fango ducks underneath, and then when the tanker truck lands behind him and explodes, he's saying, nice try, but you missed me. And then the chocolate mermaids were like, that's a bad shot. But let's try again. And when they try again, this time, they try to whack him, like hit him with a school bus. Fango dodges it. But nothing goes the way the chocolate mermaids wants them to go. Like, it's not really going the chocolate mermaid's way. Like, ugh! That's when they start getting mad. That's when they grab a delivery truck. And then they throw it at her. Mm-hmm. And then they grab a truck with no trailer, a semi-truck without a trailer. It's like a trailerless cab over. This one, they actually hit Fango with it. Fango says, well that one got me, but at least it didn't damage anything. Well, let's say he didn't, well, maybe he wouldn't really say that. He would just, he says, let's just say he says, got me that time. And then he says, but you didn't defeat me though, which is good. The chocolate mermaid just nods her head like, no, it's not good. Fango's like, well, maybe it's not to you, but it is to me. You know? Then the chocolate mermaid suddenly springs into action. They suddenly charge at Fango. Fango suddenly fights back by launching missiles that comes out of the fist of his robot. And the chocolate mermaids are like, whoa! They actually limbo. They do a limbo underneath those missiles. And Fango says, dang, they dodged. He says, dang, they limboed underneath my missiles. Fango says, but you're not gonna get away with it, he says, but I'm still not gonna let you get away with this. And yet they're still fighting and fighting and fighting. Then they try to whack Fango. They tried to hit Fango with a billboard, but he missed. They end up hitting a news helicopter. They knock it out of the sky, and it crashes into the clock tower of Greenridge. Or maybe let's say this is Sockgate. They're fighting in. Yeah, let's just stick with Sockgate for now. Yeah, let's say that they're fighting in Sockgate, and they came out of the river. So yeah, it wasn't really the ocean they came out of. It was a river connected that goes into the ocean. I wouldn't say connect. And then they come, but we already established that part. And then they tried to attack Fango, but then they pushed Fango into an oil refinery, which caused a huge explosion. And then they tried to knock a chimney onto him. Fango dodges it. He rolls to the side, and then gets up, and then Fango kicks them when they don't notice that he's about to. Well, let's say he kicks them when they try to, like, give him a knuckle sandwich, but Fango stops them, and then they look at him after and then they glare at him more after Fango kicks them. Then Fango runs. He runs up to this building with the rooftop globe on top, and that's when he grabs it, and that's how he defeats the chocolate mermaids. He grabs it, yeah, or let's say he doesn't grab it yet. Let's say the chocolate mermaids hits the building, but it falls, but bumps into another building, but it just hits another building. Doesn't collapse completely, but the rooftop globe on top falls off, but Fango catches it. And let's say he was planning on using his next weapons, but he wanted to throw the rooftop globe at the chocolate mermaids first, but when he does, he realizes it actually defeats them, because it just just goes right. He just throws it right through their chest, and then they automatically faint. But the globe actually ends up landing in the river, causing a dude to fall off his motorboat and into the water, which is actually funny. Fango said, oh well, at least I defeated them. I was just gonna throw that at them. I didn't think that was gonna defeat them, because I was gonna plan on using my next weapons against them. Or maybe Fango can say something else other than that. But after the fight, he returns home, gets his reward after the mermaid battle. But the episode doesn't end there, because now we have the ghost fairy battle that Fango has to deal with next. And that's when we cut to planet Lunerboonie, where the master of the lunerboonies notices what happened with the chocolate mermaids, and the master's like, not for Lunar's sake. I knew those mermaids would fail on me. Or she would have said, I knew those mermaids would fail me. But not this next one. It's time she says, now it's time to send the ghost fairy. And then she does. But before we can even see her open the dream gate to send the ghost fairy through, we cut back to Earth where Fangy and Fango is. Well, this is the part where he gets his reward from the chocolate mermaid battle. Let's say that's when you see him get his reward, but still, we're not done yet. The fairy is in for a battle. Yeah, we don't see her just yet. But she will show up soon. Because first you just see Fango. He also gets a lot of money for his rewards. And then that's when he starts going out to buy stuff. We see this for maybe at least 20 seconds. Maybe only for 2 minutes. We see him buying stuff. We see them going shopping for 2 minutes. Yeah. And then after 2 minutes, or maybe I should tell you what they're doing before we get to the ghost fairy crash landing on Earth. So yeah, before that, I'll tell you, when we cut to the store, we see that Fango is getting himself some stuff. Let's say when he runs to the store, he's buying he actually buys pistachio ice cream. He says, "This is to get revenge. This is for the third battle I was in with those Matterlings. This is what the Matterlings gets." He says, "Oh, right." And then he buys chocolate to teach those chocolate mermaids a lesson. He says, "I'm sure this will teach those chocolate mermaids a lesson." And then he looks on a TV. He says, he sees that Sam is saying, "Breaking news! After Fango defeated the chocolate mermaids, you can see people are feeding off on their flesh." And then Fango says, "That's silly right there." He just laughed a little bit. Maybe he chuckled when he saw that. Yeah. Now, before you see Fango and Fango returning home from the store, that's when we cut to the dream gate opening and the ghost fairy's asteroid coming through it. And then that's when we see her crash on Earth. Let's say she actually crashes. Well, before we see her crash on Earth, we cut back to Fangy and Fango for 20 seconds. And then after all that 20 seconds, let's say maybe the ghost fairy should actually crash land right in front of them. And then Fango says, "Whoa, look out!" And then Fangy's like, "Whoa!" They almost get hit by the meteor that the ghost fairy is. He says, "Is this another lunerboonie?" He says, "Please tell me that is not another lunerboonie." That's what Fango says. And then he sees the egg open. He says, Fango says, "Uh-oh. A lunerboonie just showed up right in front of him." That's when you see the lunerboonie. And we only hear her say one word. She says, or no, let's say she just says it. She says, "Surprise." And then Fango's like, "What?" She says, "Nah. Now it's time to get in my mecha suit." But then the ghost fairy kicks Fangy's car into an oil refinery, into a storage tank, which causes an explosion. And then Fango has to hide. He has to run, and then he runs for his life. Yeah. And then the ghost fairy tries to attack him some more. She almost crushes him with a billboard by kicking it. We see her run across the street, and a few more cars. They stop when her foot gets in the way. And then we see another car rear end the car that stops when her foot gets in its way. And then Fango is still running. And then when he arrives home, he gets back in his mecha suit. And then the ghost fairy's like, "Whoa!" She's like, "Huh?" She's like, "Huh?" And then when the mecha suit completely turns on, it doesn't just completely. Like when it completely turns, and when the mecha suit's like eyes turns on, we see that Fango gets ready to fight the ghost fairy. And then, actually, I just remembered what I said in the Autobella podcast and the Kitty Drone podcast. I know I said that the robot's emotions should change, but I was saying that maybe Fango should have used the Autobellas, like he used a Cyclops robot to defeat the Autobellas, but I think instead he should maybe he should use the Cyclops robot on a different one. So we'll say he uses the Cyclops robot on a different one, since the real mecha was actually supposed to be like a normal two-eyed robot. But it won't be the same robot. But that's not what robots fight in the Ghost Fairy. Now this robot, it gets up and Fango starts fighting the Ghost Fairy. The Ghost Fairy, like teleports. She disappears, and then she, teleports somewhere else. Fango can't seem to get her. And without any warning, we see her throw a truck at him. He ducks down in time to avoid getting hit. Then she grabs, let's see, what do we have? Let's say she suddenly grabs flat, logs from a logging truck, and she grabs a logging truck, and she takes the logs, and then she throws all the logs and the truck at Fango at the same time. But it still doesn't. But the mecha still doesn't take damage. Or, well, let's say that's because he dodges it as well as he dodges the Autobella's other truck attack. And then Fango fights back again. He shoots her while she's laughing, and she doesn't realize Fango. Yeah, he shoots her with his pistol, not pistol, his machine gun hands, and she's getting hit. And then she teleports while he's doing it, and then he stops after she disappears and appears somewhere else. Also, before I continue, I just want to say I'm sorry for doing a little robot interruption before, and sorry for this thing. I want to say sorry for this part too, that I'm stopped the story talking about something else rather than the story I'm supposed to be talking about. But hey, still, even though I was saying, rather than the Cyclops robot, I hate to stop the story to talk about something else for a moment, but yeah, after I'm done saying this, we can cut back. We can get back to the story. So yeah, the Cyclops robot fighting the Autobellas. Yeah, we're gonna change the Cyclops robot to a different lunerboonie, because it's like a robot because the robot's got to be able, because like I was saying, the robot was meant to change its emotions. Like the robot, its like face was supposed to, like its eyes were supposed to turn like angry or sad or happy. Yeah, something like that. But the Cyclops robot isn't supposed to work that way, so we're gonna have the Cyclops robot. Maybe let's say this is the Cyclops robot who's fighting the chocolate mermaids and the ghost fairy. Now let's say this is the Cyclops robot battle. Maybe I did just say no, I don't want to use him for this one, but I think we should use him for this one actually. Yeah. The ghost fairy still tries to attack Fango. She gets him a little bit. And then Fango starts taking a little bit of damage, but he doesn't give up. Because she keeps throwing things at her, like she's throwing like cars and street lights and billboards and stuff at Fango and his mecha suit, Cyclops mecha suit. Yeah. But then Fango has to use his Cyclops. Yes. Then he uses his laser eye, and it scares the ghost fairy, but she teleports again, and Fango ends up shooting a skyscraper. Ends up shooting one of Green Ridge's towers. He ends up shooting the main tower of Green Ridge. And he says, "Whoops." He saves it. Yeah, he saves the tower before it falls over, and then he puts it back, and then he sets it back up. Yeah. After the tower starts to topple, he grabs it. Like right before it could fall all the way, he grabs it, and then he sets it back up. Yeah, because... yeah. Yeah. At least he saved the tower from falling over. But the ghost fairy then throws like a convertible at Fango. Fango's like, "Hey!" And then the military starts shooting her. And then suddenly she starts to attack. But then she dodges, like fighter jet starts to attack her. Then she dodges their attacks too. And then she teleports somewhere else, and the fighter jet ends up shooting a building. Same with the tanks, they end up shooting a building too, because she's like, since she's a ghost, she teleports, and they don't, and yeah, they just miss her.
Yeah.
And this is a podcast. We all know it's a podcast. Sorry to mention the fact that this is a podcast. I really shouldn't be mentioning the fact that this is a podcast. Actually, it was because my father was about to talk. Sorry. Well, actually, this is why I mentioned the fact that this is a podcast. It's because my father just walked by, and I was trying to let him know that I was podcasting. That's why I mentioned the fact that this is a podcast, even though I really shouldn't be. But yeah, anyway, when Fango, since the fairy is distracted with the military, she appears behind. Yeah, she appears in front of the fighter jets really close. They almost hit her, but she knocks them. But she hits them with her hand. She just knocks them out of the sky. She just knocks. She hits one. And then she runs it into the tanks. She explodes both the fighter jet and the tanks. She laughs, but then Fango hits her, and since she's distracted, Fango shoots her with his laser eye. Which actually, he cuts a hole right through her chest, but right through the side of her chest, but it magically seals back up. And she laughs, but the military starts shooting her. Fango says, "Wait." And since the military is distracting her, like, since the military are trying to help Fango, like, by distracting the fairy, Fango slowly sneaks away. And then he sees a Ferris wheel, and that's when he grabs the Ferris wheel, and that's when he takes out the ghost fairy. And then the Ferris wheel rolls her over. But unfortunately, he ends up rolling the Ferris wheel into a nuclear power plant, causing an explosion. He's like, whoops. But he says, well, that wasn't supposed to happen. That's what he says. And yes, here's what was supposed to happen. The Ferris wheel was supposed to hit the fairy, not the nuclear power plant. But hey, it still defeated the fairy. At least the fairy. It just rolled her over, and yeah, and her life, and it crushed her souls out of her body. It crushed her, and her souls came out of her body. And then she was just dead. And then and then the magic in her just faded away. Remember what I said, she's made out of the same stuff the giant ghost from Ghostbusters is made out of. She's meant to be, like, made out of, like, her flesh is meant to be made out of that stuff. That's why her skin was a solid, not a plasma or whatever it is, like something that a weapon could just go right through. Like, it could, like, easily just crush her. And then, so yeah, and the Ferris wheel just crushes her, but ends up hitting a power plant. But hey, at least Fango does apologize in this one. And then Fango returns to Fangy's house. And then this is... But here's how the episode's gonna end. It's not gonna end with Fango getting his reward. It's not gonna end after Fango gets his reward only. It's actually gonna... Because, like, it's gonna show... Because, like, after Fango returns home and gets his reward, it's gonna cut back to outer space, and then the Dream Gate's gonna open. And then the next lunerboonie is gonna come through it, and then the episode's gonna end with the next lunerboonie crashing on it. And then once the lunerboonie after the ghost fairy, when she crashes on Earth, that's when you see her come out of the crater. And these are the next lunerboonies that comes after the ghost fairy. It's these alien robot ladies. Yeah. They come out of the crater, and then they roar. And then the episode ends. Well, it ends with... Right before it ends completely, it shows a black screen with white text that says, "The battle will continue in the next episode." And then that's when the episode ends. And yep. And yes, it will continue in the next episode. So, but the episode ends for now.